Good morning, I'm Bob Sidney, your host. Glad to have you with us on this, the final edition of Rapping. Glad you could join us this morning. We're going to be talking about something that a lot of people have decried in previous years, and that is the fact that Americans really don't seem to know much about the way their government works. Think back to your high school civics class, if indeed they still called it civics then. Do you remember how a bill is passed, the procedure for amending the Constitution? Can you name your state representative, your city councilman for your ward or district? You'd be amazed at how many people can't. We seem to have a real problem with understanding the way our government works and how actually everything puts together. And of course, if you don't know how it works, you don't know how to work it. That's the purpose of the program that we're going to be talking about today, a program to introduce Americans to their government. The program is called Close-Up. We have two representatives of Close-Up here with us today. I'd like you to meet them. They are Pete Bawden, who is a student at Mount Pleasant High School and has participated several times in the Close-Up program, one time already and another one this summer, and Terry Judd, who is community coordinator for Close-Up and is out here helping get things set up. Terry, I suppose we ought to start with you first of all. Close-Up. Close-Up on what?
Close-Up to our nation's federal government and also different activities relating to state and local government as well. The Close-Up Foundation is a multi-partisan, non-profit organization, and as you explained, there are concerns in this country about how much people are in tune with what their government does and who their representatives are and how the whole process works. It's not the simplest process in the world, and it's a program which focuses on high school students and teachers to try and bring them closer to their government so that they'll be better citizens.
Okay, so high school students and teachers are the main focus of it.
That's
now,
correct.
How do you teach high school students about the way the government works? Obviously, there's more to it than just providing them with a book and saying, here it is.
Well, all high schools also will have civics classes or American government or problems in democracy or whatever type of class, and all of that is very valuable and a much more lengthy process of studying the government, but also it really helps to go and actually see the government in action, talk with people who are actually our nation's policymakers, and so it's a way of going to the location of the government and meeting with the people who are actually the government and learning from them directly.
So high school students from, for example, this area, since we're obviously talking about people like Pete, people from this area will go and spend some time in Washington, D.C., actually
Yes.
going around and seeing everything.
Right.
How long?
It's a week-long program. Schools from this area, there are about 40, extending out about 40 or 50 miles from the immediate Quad Cities to include, as I said, 40 schools, and those schools will participate during one of 3 weeks during April or May.
Okay, now you are a community coordinator. What's this
Right.
concept of community?
Well, first of all, that means that I'm the person working with the schools and explaining the program at the beginning of the school year and helping out however I can to make sure the program is carried out. The community is that we try to involve public, private, parochial schools from urban, suburban, and rural areas, and we focus around a geographic area usually. So thus, this is what we call the Greater Quad City Area Program, and actually going down as far as Muscatine to the south, Ottumwa to the west, Clinton to the north, and Anawan, Atkinson, Weathersfield to the east.
Okay.
The part of the idea there is that not only are students in Washington, D.C. learning about their federal government, they're also learning about each other. They're meeting students from other schools in the area. They're also talking about issues which affect them directly in their own geographic area. So that it's a process of going to Washington, D.C. and learning there, but learning about the other members of the group that's there with them.
So they will all go as a group and travel around and pretty much maintain this grouping
That's
through the
correct.
whole week.
We also would put the group from this area with another area of the country. So there's another element of having a chance to compare issues, schools, what people are thinking about here in this area, as well as meeting students and teachers from another area of the country and comparing what they think about their own issues and learning that way as well.
Okay, Pete, it's your turn. Now, you were as a high school student 2 years ago now? You
Yeah, I went 2
participated in
years
this,
ago.
and you're going back.
Yeah.
My first question was going to be, what's your impression of the program? Obviously, if you're going again, you enjoyed it. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, I thought it was great. You can't really say enough about it. It really lets you have a close-up look at government.
What'd you think when you saw government? Did it change your impressions?
Well, I've always kind of grown up in a politically aware family, and it was through, like, you know, my dad and my mom and everything that they kind of convinced me to go. And I don't know, it made you realize actually how big the United States government was, and you know, sometimes a little bit too big. But it really opened your eyes to a lot of different things where, you know, you wouldn't realize that if you were just in a local area.
Let's give people an idea of what kind of things you did. When you spent a week in Washington, D.C., who'd you see, who'd you meet, where'd you go?
Well, geez.
There's 15 minutes right there.
I don't know, from the first time you got there, you started going to seminars, and you'd be at, like, seminars and on your feet almost all day, and they really kept you busy, and you really got to meet a lot of really neat people, and go up on Capitol Hill and meet a lot of the senators and stuff. We had it's a program called C-SPAN, and it's televised. I think it's nationally, but we spoke with Robert Dole on, like, farm exports and stuff like that, and that was really interesting. We met with Jim Leach and Senator Grassley, and privately, all by ourselves, and we also met with a lot of different speakers from, like, the State Department and different agencies and stuff in government.
So you got the Cook's tour also? You went to see the Supreme Court and you saw Capitol Hill. Did you get to the White House?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so they pretty much, you got to see the whole city.
Yeah, they gave us a tour.
They kept you jumping, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go back again? You did it once. Why are you going back?
I don't know. I've always really been interested in government, and especially, like, the foreign policy area. And I don't know, it's the program. There's so much to get out of it that, I don't know, once isn't enough. You could do that, you know, hundreds of times, and you still couldn't get all the worth out of it. I mean, the things you can get out of it are just immense.
We cover a lot of topics, and so there are a variety of things the students are doing during the week, and coming back again, Pete would be maybe focusing on some of the same subjects. The issues have changed some in the last couple of years, and also different speakers. We ask, there's a large pool of people that we have come speak to the students, and during any given week, someone even coming back a second time would be hearing from different people and getting different perspectives that way. There really is it's a very intensive program, and they're going from one place to the other and on all day for about 5.5 days. And actually, a lot of the things that they're doing are on location in the State Department or on Capitol Hill, a government building or auditorium somewhere. And it's one thing about the various speakers that we have is that the students don't just receive a prepared speech. They hear the speaker talk for about 15 minutes, and then there's about 45 minutes for the students to ask questions. That's a learning experience in itself, to stand up and ask your congressman a question in front of 200 other people, and also it directs the content through the students' questions. So it's not just what those people want to tell the students, but they're answering to the students in an inquiry format.
We all know how much fun it is to ask questions in front of a lot of people. You're here in the Quad Cities, and you're helping get this local community system organized. Let's talk about how it works on the school level. How do you decide how many students participate, which students participate, how do they get involved in this, how are all the decisions made?
Okay. Close up through contacting superintendents and principals and asking a principal to select usually a social studies teacher to work with the program. That's really decisions that the school makes. Do they want to be involved, and what teacher would work with it? Then I work with the individual teachers selected to coordinate the program, and they have the materials and information to make the entire student body, at least 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, aware of the program and then work with those students who are interested. There's no set limit on X number of students come from every school. It varies depending upon student interest, ability to go on the program, a variety of things.
Now, a program like this would have to cost a lot of money, what with all of the transportation and everything. Now, I understand that some of the money comes from the Close-Up Foundation. Where does that money come from, and what's it used for?
The Close-Up Foundation gives fellowships, as we call them, to each participating school which has been invited. This allows the teacher to come on the program, and also there's a 70% stipend to cover the cost of a student who meets low to moderate income guidelines also, or this stipend could be divided among several qualifying students. The funds that come from the Close-Up Foundation are about half are from a congressional appropriation from the U.S. Congress called the Alan J. Ellender Fellowship Program. Senator Alan Ellender from Louisiana was a strong supporter of the program in the early 1970s, and in his memory, and because it was a program he was very strong on, Congress made an appropriation to help low-income students come on the program as well as other students. Other funds then come from the local business and philanthropic organizations. There's a very strong Quad City Advisory Council here in the Quad City area, which is comprised of members of the political community and business leaders and educators all working together, and the business people primarily are the ones who then are also working to come up with an additional contribution which goes to these schools in the form of fellowships.
So this is not something that the student has to pay the entire cost of a trip to Washington and staying for a week and all of that?
Some students receive assistance because they qualify for the fellowship from Close-Up. Other students can also raise a local contribution from a business that might help that individual student, in addition to those fellowships that Close-Up provides.
The point I'm getting to, that a student whose parents are unemployed or a student who doesn't have a lot of money at home needn't feel that they're necessarily shut out of the program.
Definitely not, no.
Okay. Now, Pete, let's get back to you. We talked about what you did in Washington. Now, one of the things that Terry had mentioned early on in the program was the fact that they want you to learn not only about the federal government, but about our own area. Now, what's involved in the program that you do other than the week in Washington that helps you learn about what goes on here?
Well, they have, as I said like earlier, where you actually meet your congressman, like close up, where for example, we met with Jim Leach on like the steps of the White House, and he was talking to us and stuff like that, and also they kind of, they have regional or local type meetings where you can talk about, where the students will get together with like an advisor or somebody, and they'll talk about local problems. When I was there, we were talking mostly about exports to like Russia and stuff. That was a couple years, 2 years ago. So that was the big issue, and we got together and we were discussing that, and different areas of local interest and stuff like that.
When's the Quad City contingency going this year?
It's April 17th.
Okay, so
one of the weeks, is April 17th through the 23rd, and then I believe April 24th through the 30th. There's also a group May 8th through, I believe, the 14th. It's a Sunday through Saturday that the students are gone to Washington.
So there are a couple of different groups in this area?
That among the approximately 40 schools, those schools are divided up so that they're roughly 100 each week going, and that they're paired with another maybe 100 students from another part of the country.
We will continue our discussion on Close-Up with the program in just a couple of moments, right after this.
Grandpa's birthday and Becky's birthday are the same day. So it's a wonderful occasion for the family to get together and see each other. And to keep seeing our best, we all care about eye care. Vision problems can occur no matter what our age. Optometric examinations are a good way to prevent many vision problems. We want to keep seeing each other for many years to come. We care about eye care.
Here's looking at you, kid.
And so should you.
Work. It gives us confidence and meaning to our lives. These taste testers work in a corporate research laboratory making critical judgments on the effect of sealing compounds on foods. They were hired for their abilities, highly developed sensitivity to taste and odor, not for their disabilities. Some of them are blind. Like other handicapped Americans, they sought to be employed neither above nor below their capabilities. Such creative matching of people and jobs is good citizenship, good business.
Hands that are sharing, hands that are caring, hands across America, that's the Shrine philosophy.
Hi, I'm Shirley Jones. There are 21 Shrine hospitals in North America that provide the finest in medical care for crippled children, and it's all free. Give a crippled child a reason to smile. Call the Shrine toll-free 1-800-237-5055.
Someone you know could have autism. It's almost impossible to tell. Autistic children and adults look just like anyone else, but their parents and families can tell you just how heartbreakingly different they are. Withdrawn, frightened, confused. With your support and understanding, autistic children can lead productive...
Welcome back to, I was going to call it Close-Up, but that's the name of the program we're discussing today. It's Rapping. I'm Bob Sidney, and my two guests today are Pete Bawden, who is a member of Close-Up, was 2 years ago, and is going back again this year. And we're talking with Terry Judd, who is community coordinator and is responsible for coming out from Washington to help make sure that everything gets all put together. Now, let's talk a little bit. Yesterday, there was a pre-meeting in the Quad Cities.
The one thing that's very neat that the local Quad City Advisory Council is involved in, and this, as I said earlier, is business representatives, members of the political community, and educators have put together a pre-program session so that students from this area can focus on some of their own local issues, have some speakers in so that they see the kind of seminar format that Close-Up will provide them in Washington. And really, starting with nothing, they've put together about 3 or 4 hours of activities of different speakers. I also, I won't count myself among one of the speakers, but I also speak with the students and give them some preparatory information and just kind of nuts and bolts, which about when they'll be traveling and hotels they'll be staying in and such things. And it's, I think, a very good thing for the students to start focusing on the issues ahead of time and to be very comfortable with the process that they'll encounter in Washington. That way they really arrive knowing what to expect and ready to go and having thought about and having opinions on issues already when they start. One other thing is that reaching some students who aren't actually signed up for the program in Washington, D.C., in the Davenport school system, there's a program for 9th grade students to go and spend half a day learning about county government and half a day learning about city government, which the Education Committee of the Chamber of Commerce in Davenport is involved in, as well as the Davenport Public Schools. And similarly in Rock Island, with the Rock Island Chamber of Commerce, there's a city-county focus for students in Rock Island County, so that we encourage other types of local activities to make it more than one isolated week in Washington, D.C.
For the high school students or the parents of high school students who are watching and would be interested in, now they've missed the pre-program meeting.
That was yesterday.
But that doesn't mean that they're necessarily knocked out of the program this year, right?
We have about 320 students and teachers enrolled at this point. It's not too late, however. It's kind of an open-ended, however many can and want to participate. So it would not be too late if there were still students interested in participating this year. I don't know, Bob, whether I've mentioned the price of the program, and some people are probably wondering about that.
Took the words out of my mouth.
It's $685 this year, which includes the round-trip airfare to Washington, D.C., and the hotels and meals, really everything but snacks and souvenirs. Is that right, Pete?
Yeah.
Is there a lot of that, Pete?
Yeah, quite a bit. During the course of the program, you really get to know the other students and things, and it's really fun.
So it's not just run, run, run all the time. There's some time for fun.
Yeah. At the very end of the program, they have a dance in which all the, everybody that was on the program gets together one last time or whatever, and kind of have a dance and have fun or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said there are 320 students and teachers approximately.
That's correct.
In the Quad City area that are participating.
Among these 40 schools, and that would be about then 40 adults and 280 students. And
there's 3 groups going.
Right.
So we're talking about 110 people every time a group. You charter a plane?
In past years, I believe the program started for this area in '75. In those days, it was a little bit easier to work with charters, and so we used to. Now we will block a group of seats on regularly scheduled service.
Okay, so there are a lot of people who take part in this. This is not 4 or 5 kids who are going to go stay someplace in Washington.
Nationwide, with about 45 areas of the country, this being one of them, we have, well, this year about 15,300 students and teachers coming on the program. So it's not, as you say, a couple of students here and there going on the program. It's a very strong program here in this area.
How long has the program actually been in existence? You mentioned here it's been since about '75.
Right. It was, the Close-Up Foundation was formed in 1970 and ran its first program for just 1 or 2 areas of the country in 1971. Since then, we've added more and more areas of the country, and so we're in our 12th year now.
So the Quad Cities was relatively early, all things considered, for getting involved in this, just 4 years after the program actually started.
With the help of the Quad City Development Group, Congressman Railsback, and then when he was elected Congressman Leach, there's really, from the beginning, developed a very strong base of involvement and people that have continued to really support the program locally. A number of the major businesses such as Deere & Company, Iowa Illinois Gas and Electric, Caterpillar, and if I tried to name them all, I would leave out some. There are probably 15 other organizations as well that have contributed money and done other things, such as a person from John Deere Harvester, Rick Anderson, is chairing this local committee and making sure that funds are raised and that these local program activities are going on as well.
Okay, now Pete, let's talk a little bit about what happened. Now, when you went out there 2 years ago, you mentioned you met Congressman Leach, Congressman Railsback. Did you meet the senators?
Yeah, we did. We met Senator Grassley and Senator Jepsen, and we had a luncheon with them.
How'd they deal with you? What'd you talk about? Were they did they spend a lot of time with you? Yeah,
quite a bit of time. Kind of put a plug in for Jim Leach. He probably spent the most time with us, but it was really fun. We got to ask him questions, kind of stuff that you wouldn't normally think you would ask him, but
you wouldn't walk up to him in the street and ask him questions like that.
Yeah.
But they seemed to feel that it was a good program?
Oh yeah, they were really responsive to us, and they answered just about everything we put to them.
Okay. Congressman Leach is one of the, I guess, 2 members of Congress in the country who have actually contributed funds to actually sponsor students, and I believe there are 10 students, one from each of the county in each county in Jim Leach's district, which because he was against a pay raise, congressional pay raise in '77, I believe, then he lost that vote, but given the extra pay, he contributed that for students to come from his district, which is really a neat thing, I think.
Okay, now one other thing that I'm heard about just a little bit, a program for disabled students. What kind of students can everybody go, or?
We have a hearing impaired program where we've actually invited 44 schools around the country, mostly residential state schools for the deaf, and have about 250 hearing impaired students and teachers on the program during the year. I think the second of the 3 weeks that the Quad City area is going, there will be hearing impaired students in town at the same time, which is another interesting learning experience. You're kind of learning about something else other than government in addition to all that you learn about government. There are about 12 schools for the blind that are involved across the country, and we have about 50 students from there. Some non-ambulatory students participate as well.
You meet the senators. How high up do you go? Do you get to meet the president ever?
I guess a couple years ago, some of the kids did get to actually go to like the White House lawn and question the president with some other members of the press and stuff. So I guess
you didn't get to.
I didn't get to.
Well,
no.
maybe this year.
Yeah.
Most students don't have that chance, but twice this year we've had something which is arranged with Close Up and the C-SPAN network, which carries the House of Representatives when they're in session. The president has spoken with 2 small groups of students this year, and I think we might have another one coming up.
We are running out of time. We have only basically enough time. If somebody wants to find out more, get in touch with their counselor, their high school principal. Do they have the information?
High school close-up teacher or close-up, and that's 1235 Jefferson Davis Highway, Arlington, Virginia, 22202.
Okay. If you have any other questions, we have the information here. You can get in touch with us. Terry, Pete, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Nice talking to you, and good luck in Washington.
Thanks.
And talk to you again today on Close Up.